Wealth is resistance. How Black women can financially exit toxic jobs. So, today we're talking about what? Money again. Because when we think about leaving a toxic job, or if you've been pushed out the job market, often fears about money come up all the time. So, we're going to have a conversation about money and ways that we can really look at our money and plan for things in relation to money so that money issues don't keep us stuck in toxic jobs or keep us stuck if we get pushed out of a job and we don't know what to do. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been licensed for over 20 years. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which is coming up May 1st. So that's coming up very soon. So excited today that we have one of our speakers here. Not only one of our speakers and bonus speakers too. So she's going to be sharing with you about what she's going to be talking about at the summit, as well as she's going to talk about during her bonus session. So again, the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, May 1st through the 3rd. We're going to be talking about various issues, but I also want to say that the summit is for Black women who are trying to come up with an exit plan for leaving toxic jobs. It is also for Black women who've been pushed out of the labor market. At the summit, you will learn about ways to replace your income, whether that be if you're trying to pivot to another job or if you're trying to create your own business. Also learning about your options for retirement and health insurance, as well as creating multiple streams of income. Also, as a privacy consideration, you will not be seen on camera. So no summit attendees will be seen on camera. You also have an option of attending anonymously. Okay. So I'm so excited to have Samira here with us today. Samira, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Kimani. I'm so excited to be here, but also super excited to be part of the Job Liberation Summit this year as a panelist and also, as you say, as a bonus speaker. My name is Samira. I do live in Canada. I'm originally from Benin, West Africa, but I've been living in Canada for 20 plus years. I currently reside in Ottawa. I consider myself, of course, a Black woman, very proud of that. I am a single mother by choice of three beautiful kids, young kids, 6 and under. And I'm a money strategist, and I do coach Black women, how to invest and also build wealth. I'm the founder of the Wealthy Black Women Summit. It's also an annual summit that I've been doing this year. Will be my 4th year in November. And the last thing that I want to mention is that I'm a cycle breaker. A lot of things that I've done in my life is really looking at cycle that I feel like really was not serving me and finding ways to actually break that, because I consider that my my goal and my raison d'être. So then the next generation, especially of Black women, don't have to deal with what I actually had to go through. So thank you for having me.
I'm so intrigued. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about being a cycle breaker? Because I think that's really profound. Because when we think about like family history, like sometimes we repeat the same patterns within our family, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. We just keep playing it out. Or we might say, "Oh, I don't want to be like so and so," but then you end up playing the same pattern anyway. So, can you tell us a little bit about how intentional you have been about breaking cycles, and what does that look like?
Yes. So I feel like, growing up, first of all, when I was a young child, like, a little girl,
Mhm,
like I was really attuned to what was going around me, like how adults were,
mhm,
like, handling things and whatnot. And one thing that I've realized a lot was that a lot of women, of course, Black women, I was born in a country where most people were Black,
mhm,
will, get themselves into, relationships and marriages that really were not serving them, and
mm,
they will stay in those relationships because they really had nowhere to go. Once you actually marry into your husband's family, they become responsible for you, and everything is good when the husband is really doing their share and really treating you well. But
mhm,
when the relationship doesn't work, usually the woman is the one who's like left, like, holding the bag. And a lot of times I've seen, like a lot of my mom's friends or people that she knew at the time, honestly,
mhm,
like, having developing like disease and health conditions, literally also losing their lives in
Oh,
relationship that really were not serving them. So I promised myself that, one thing that I will not let a man do in my life is having the say on how I was going to be living my life. And essentially for me, I knew that that was one of the way of doing that was being able to stand on my own financial feet and being able to really like a good steward of my money. So then if I decide to stay in a relationship, it's not because of the money aspect, but really because I wanted to be there. And so, and fast forward to, I guess, like when I ended up finding the person that I thought I was gonna be, getting married and having children, having a family with. But then I realized, when we were engaged, that there were like some patterns that I've seen when I was younger, where, like let's say, the future mother-in-law wanted to tell me what to do,
mm,
the way I was dressing, or like the way I was using my money, and the way I
mhm,
was, so I was like, oh, actually, I don't need to be here, to be
mm,
quite honest with you. And I think the one way that actually, for me, I felt like I broke the cycle was like, uh, in I guess like in honor of all of those Black women who found themselves in relationship like that and had no choice but to go through
mhm,
with the relationship. I broke up my engagement and I say, thank you so much, I'm not interested. And
mhm,
I think, probably at the time I was more like, a little bit in my late 30s, and I felt like, it was like, well, she's already in her late 30s. What choice does she have? I'm pretty sure she will do everything to actually get married and have kids. And I actually say, no, thanks. I'm not going to go through with this. And by the way, I'm going to start my family on my own. So that's a second way that for me, I really broke the cycle in the way that we don't need to have, be in a relationship and be married to have children if that's really what we want. And so, with God's help, I I not only had one, but like three, three children that I'm raising by myself.
mhm,
Eventually maybe I'll meet someone, but for me, being able to actually, again, that's another, you know things that I was able to do, because I had my own finances in place, because raising kids in North America, it's not cheap, and doing that by
mhm,
myself, not making that huge of a salary, it's something that I have to be very careful with, where my coins are going. um,
mhm,
and so that's that. I guess the third thing that I want to mention here in terms of
mhm,
breaking the cycle, Dr.
mhm,
Kimani, is that I'm the oldest daughter of my
mhm,
family, and for many years, coming from Africa, there was a lot of, I guess, like pressure put on me to help, my younger siblings and my cousin a lot financially. And
mhm,
so, them coming here and starting in Canada and having to pay international student fee, and my sister and I having to cover that, not
mhm,
really making a lot of money at the time. And I felt like at one point that was my duty, being the oldest daughter. And then at one point I decided, no, actually it's not me. Like, I don't have
mhm,
to do that. And I pushed against it. And of course that was not well received on the other side, like by my mom. And
mhm,
the one thing that, she would tell me, until, today, is like, we have always done that. Like, this is something that we have always done. That's what we do in Africa. You support your
mhm,
people. You have to almost sacrifice yourself for the well
mhm,
of your family. And I said, well,
mhm.
I can help my family without sacrificing myself. So, for me, it's also a way of breaking the cycle that, which I feel like, it's been done a certain way, generation and generations, and we need to be able to, decide that if it's not working for us, it's not working for us.
Wow. Wow. Very powerful. So you talked at different points about ways that finances had a big influence on that, even how women may have stayed in relationships that weren't healthy because of financial dependence. And
Mhm.
so you were very clear about, I want to be able to financially support myself if needed. And
Mhm.
you were able to make a lot of decisions in your life because you have been financially wise, right? Okay. So let's talk. Thank you for sharing that. I was just very intrigued when you said that about cycle breakers. Thank you, Marissa. I was like, what is, tell us more about that. Because when, again, we think about patterns, many times we don't think about like how to break the cycles, right? And being intentional about that.
Yes.
So when we think about Black women in toxic jobs and we think about what might keep them there, I have mentioned finances because many times when I talk to Black women, and I even think about my own experience in a toxic job, what kept me there longer than I wanted to be there was my terrifying fear about how I was going to replace my income. Can you talk a little bit more about how money issues may impact Black women in relation to leaving toxic jobs.
Yes. So, like you said, the main reason why a lot of us we have a job is because of the money, right? So if the job was to say, well, still come to work, but I'm not gonna pay you, I'm pretty sure a bunch of people will not show up. They'll just
Right.
not go. It doesn't matter how much you love your colleagues or your job. Like, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna find something else to do that's gonna pay me money because I need money. And
Mhm.
so when it comes time to make a decision to actually potentially leave that job because we're not being treated well, we're not being recognized, we're not being acknowledged, we're not being heard and seen,
Mhm.
money becomes really top of the list. It's like, am I going to be able to essentially, feed myself, especially when
Mhm.
you have like a family or people depending on you? Am I going to be
Mhm.
able to feed myself if I actually leave this job? And
Mhm.
and so a lot of time, a lot of people don't think about it when they're like on the job. They start
Mhm.
thinking about it when there is an issue because there's so much in that, just like, autopilot mindset of like, I go to work, I make money, I spend money. They don't really think that, okay, something may happen really
Mhm.
that will make me lose this job. And
Mhm.
that despite being surrounded by examples of people who have lost their job, who have gotten sick and had to retire early and all of those things.
Mhm.
Somehow we always think that, that's not going to happen to us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so to me, I feel like we need to prep as if, prep for the worst and just like, if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. I think
Mhm.
the way I've always approached things in my life. So just as an example, I had my undergraduate and then my graduate degree. Then when I finished university, I thought that people will be coming knocking on my door to offer me like the 80 and $100,000 job at the time.
Mhm.
I was so naive. Didn't happen like that. I ended up taking my first job after like having my master's and everything was $27,000 a year.
Woo!
I tell you, in
Woo!
in a call center working with
Ouch.
like 16 and 17-year-old who were like in high
Ouch.
school
With a
after
master's degree.
masters.
Woo!
You know what? That really shocked me so much, and it woke me up, and I was like, "Oh my God, what do I need to do? Because is this the way my career is going to be like? What exactly?" And luckily, it was a call center for a bank, so
Mhm.
I was taking calls. It was inbound calls, and I was seeing how people were getting paid a bunch of money, but like finding themselves in credit card debt. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on? And then some
Mhm.
people having like modest salary and having like hundreds of $1,000s in their retirement account. And
Mhm.
so as a young person at that point, I was like young in my young 20s. I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, well, I guess this has really nothing to do with how much you make, but like, what do you do with that money that actually land in your hand? And
Mhm.
so that really also piqued my curiosity because I was just like, okay, well, what do I need to do? And that's how I started getting, learning about investing, what to invest in, how to approach different things.
Mhm.
And from there, I was like, okay, I need to be ready. First of all, I don't want to work until 60 something. My maximum
Mhm.
is like my 50s. And
Mhm.
second, if something happens to my job, I want to be able to, like not feel so bad about it and just like, okay, yes, I need to find another job, but it's not the end of the world. And so
Mhm.
how do you do that financially? You be ready. So honestly, for me, it's like you don't know when your job is going to become toxic. You don't know when you're going to have to deal with someone that is toxic at your job.
It's
But
true.
what you can control is really be ready. If it doesn't
Mhm.
happen, that's perfect. But when
Mhm.
it does happen, listen, you will be like, well, thank you so much. Give me the package. I'm actually happy to go because I'm fine.
I'm
You're
already ready.
smiling on your way out when everybody's actually crying about it.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you said because, I always talk about that we can't always control what's happening around us,
Mhm.
but we can control and we can focus on what we have agency over. And you just talked about that. We can control how we deal with our finances. So you recognize at an early age, okay, so I need to prepare for the worst case scenario. So
Mhm.
how did you start planning for the worst case scenario when you were working at these jobs, like these lower level jobs?
Exactly. So the one thing that I stayed away from very early was credit card debt, like consumer
Mhm.
debt. I
Mm.
saw really like taking inbound calls, like how it was literally ruining people's finances. People using credit card debt because they were collecting points, like literally in their retirement, calling me that people retired in their 60s, 70s, being in $20,000, $30,000 credit card debt. And then I'm like, and then they're calling to consolidate because like the interest rate is so high they can't serve because now they're like on fixed income, like their retirement pension and then their social security equivalent of social security for you, and they're like, okay, well, I cannot pay those credit card debt. And I'm like, okay, but how did you end up in 20 to 30,000? Oh, we wanted to collect the points, so we went on cruises and trips and everything. And I'm like, in your 60s and 70s, like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't want to do that, right?
So you learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I'm crazy with my credit card. Like I use credit card. I'm not like, don't have a credit card. I use my credit card, but I paid every month. Like my credit card company, they don't like me. They just don't like me because I pay my balance every month. I'm not like, so crazy about it that I paid every day when I use it, but I really, track my money in a way that I know that I'm going to have enough to pay my credit card balance. So that would be the first thing, because not alone, you may lose your job, but the worst is like not only you don't have income coming, but on top of that, you have debt to deal with. That's like double whammy, right? So for me, it was like staying away from, consumer debt. That's the first thing. And the second for me was really learning about investing, because for me, it was just like, how do I make my money work harder than I'm doing right now? So because it was not easy, right? $27,000 a year, but I was taking up to like 100, 120 calls a day,
Ooh.
to various people, some people being really, really rude. At the time, my English was terrible because I was only speaking, mostly French, and people were not nice a lot of time over the phone. But for me, it was just like, okay, I'm going to use this terrible, experience to actually better myself. And I was literally like seeing from one client to the other who was doing what to actually, better themselves. And I saw that a lot of people, actually, people that I felt like they were really stable financially, like a lot of them, they had like retirement account, they had savings account, they had investment account. So I started learning about that. I started reading a lot. Like I read so many finance books back then. I love reading. And so, and then I started, putting my money, bit by bit into the market. The other thing also that we don't do when we start a job is like, we don't take advantage of the employer matching program. There is no reason to not do that. Like, seriously, if that's one thing that you have to do when it comes to investing, if your employer has a matching program for your 401k, or like in our case, like a group RSP here in Canada, you have to take advantage of that, because that's like free money that you're leaving on the table. And for me, even if you have consumer debt, you should still be doing that because they're giving you free money, and it's something that is taken directly from your paycheck. So start doing that, because you don't even, it's not for you to do the investment. They'll do it for you, and long term it's going to be good. So I stayed away from consumer debt. I leveraged all of my employers' matching program. Like that was even part of my question that I will ask them in interview. Do you have a matching program? And what does it look like? Because I want to know, I want to compare from one employer to the other. So then when I get in, like, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm getting 6%, I'm getting 10% versus maybe someone who's paying me a little bit more, but they're giving me 2%. Like long term, it's better for me to be with that employer is giving me like 10% matching versus the 2%, because if there is not like a significant difference in my income, because the income is short term, but your retirement is long term. So it's all of that, you need to think about. And so, yeah, so stay away from consumer debt, the matching program, the investing. So the investing, I did all sort of investing. I did the for us it's like the guarantee income certificate, which is, I guess, a bit of it's not like so much like a bond. I never invested in bonds. So for me, I started with that. Then I moved to stock investing, and that was because I majored in finance. I was really comfortable with like capital markets. But then after, it's a lot of work because you need to track all of the companies, you need to be on earning calls and everything. So I started shifting a little bit to mutual funds, and now my portfolio is mainly exchange traded funds, which is similar to mutual fund, but like it's just like less expensive. And for me, I feel like it actually is more suitable to me, to where I'm at in my investing journey. And so, yeah, so that's really, how for me, I felt like, I was getting financially ready. And maybe to give you another example, at one point I was with an employer. It was not a toxic job per se. I liked the job, I liked the team, but I was dealing with a particular person literally on a daily basis. That person was toxic. Like that person, like particular was toxic. And
Mhm.
so, and I never found myself in that kind of situation where I'm like, oh my God, I was dreading going to work. It was getting
Mm.
too much. And after, connecting with HR and trying to see with employee assistant program, I really saw that there was nothing that they were gonna do because that person was really like, an executive and, although they had some precedence with other people, I felt like, they were not gonna do anything. So
Mhm.
I walk away. I
Mm.
by myself, right? And so how many people have that possibility? And that was because I was like, listen, at the time, yeah, I got another offer, but like a lower salary. I was just
Mhm.
like, yeah, I can live with that. I'm good. And so I left. And so I didn't wait for them, to let me go or anything
You
like that.
felt you had the confidence to leave at that point because what?
And
Because
that
you
was
had
my money
a
was right at
financial
the time.
plan?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so what about for Black women who maybe been pushed out of the labor market?
Mhm.
What might cause Black women who've been pushed out the labor market to possibly panic about money?
So most of the time it's because we are not ready. Our money is not ready. And
Mhm.
so, and the other thing that has nothing to do with money is our identity. A lot of us,
Mhm.
our identity is actually a little bit, is actually weaved into our work, and
Yeah.
especially for us Black women, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
wow, I'm at this position. Maybe I'm the only like a non-Caucasian that is part of this table. So we get to some, especially when like in our 40s and 50s, where we have accumulated a lot of experience and we are like at tables that honestly not many of us are at.
Mhm.
And so when we actually get pushed out of the job market that way, it's not only the money, but it's also like, who am I now? If I'm not
Mhm.
that person, who,
Mhm.
how do I even, introduce myself to people? Because before it used to be, I'm Samira, the CFO of this, or like the CEO of that, and you name it. And
Mhm.
so it's not only the money part, but it's also the identity crisis that comes with it. And so
Mhm.
that's another part of it. A lot of time, it's also the advantages, right, that we have through the work. A
Mhm.
lot of people stay in toxic jobs, not so much because of the income, but eventually they want to have a pension. Eventually,
Mhm.
they want to keep the benefits because medical bills, it's so expensive. So at
Right.
least if I'm working for this company, if something happens to myself or my children, they're going to cover 80%, they're going to cover 90%. Because if I find myself, if I'm being pushed out now, then if something happens, everything is coming from my pocket, and
Mhm.
I may not have the money for that, right? So,
Mhm.
and the last thing that I want to mention is like Black women, it's changing now. I'm seeing like a shift, but I would
Mhm.
say for a lot of us, we did not grow up in environments where we were told you can make your money yourself. You
Right.
don't
No, absolutely not.
You don't have to work for someone. You don't have to work for a company. By
Mhm.
yourself, you can make the money. Black women are like the ones who are starting businesses the most right now in North America because again, we've been pushed out of, standard or corporate world. And a lot
Mhm.
of us are getting fed up. We're like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
go again, go
Mhm.
hunting with like resume and whatnot, trying to find another job. I'm going to find something
To
that I'm
be mistreated again.
exactly. And
Mhm.
I think right now it might be hard, but down the road in 10 years, 20 years, it's going to be great, like amazing for Black women. Because don't forget also that businesses, if you can establish a business and grow that business, it's a lot of potential for you, right? So like, you have the flexibility, you control when and where you work with who and all of that, and that you don't have that opportunity when you are working for someone. And so I feel like those are kind of like being able to create the environment that it's actually we want to work in is
Mhm.
going to be good. So again, we need to see it. We've been pushed out of toxic workplace. It's terrible. It should not happen. Too many of us have lost our jobs, our
Mhm.
livelihood, like in the past
Mhm.
year or 2 years. And
Mhm.
but I really want to also encourage us to see this as an opportunity to
Mhm.
bounce back and be like, actually, I don't need you, and I can do this by myself.
Right, right, right. Like shifting, like pivoting in a different way. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And wondering for Black women who've been pushed out and maybe starting to experience that panic, wondering how am I gonna pay my bills? What are some maybe strategies or tips that you can offer for Black women who may starting to experience that panic about money?
Yeah. So when I coach people, one thing that I realize is like a lot of my clients, they've never looked at their numbers. People don't want to look at their numbers for some reason. They're like, I'm not sure. Because you ask question like, how much does it cost
They don't know.
on a monthly basis for your monthly expenses? And they're like,
Mhm.
I'm not too sure. It's like 2,000, 3,000. Then we go through in the document, it's like 6,000. I'm like, listen. It's like,
That's a big difference.
yeah, that's a big
That's a
difference. When
huge difference. Yes.
exactly. When they come to me because mainly they want to start investing or they really want to get better at it. And
Mhm.
so one thing that I need to also make sure that they have that extra, right, to
Mhm.
invest, like that, their fixed expense, like rent or mortgage or all of that. So I usually ask, like, how much it is. And so I kind of like shifting my coaching a little bit to even coach people on money management because for a lot of people, they don't know their numbers. We need to know our number. That's like the first.
Absolutely.
So it's like if right now it's like I'm not sure where the money is gonna come from for my bills, like what bills? How much do you owe? When do you need to pay? Like you literally have to take, you don't have to be like a tech savvy, but like take pen and paper and be like, okay, well, this is how much I might be getting, let's say, in like employment insurance or like, something like that because you were laid off. And this is how much I need to pay for my bills. And then looking at the gap, how exactly, I can close this gap. There's certain things that you can do like in a very short term to close your gap, but it's not really ideal like for the long term. Eventually you have to figure out whether you want to go back and find another job or like start something on your own. But the first thing is you need to know your numbers. Like
Absolutely.
if you don't tell your money what to do, your money is gonna be like, oh well, hi, and then bye. You don't know what's going
You
on.
don't know where you are. Exactly. You don't know where your starting point is.
And we work too hard. I know every Black woman, I've been working in corporate for 20 years now. Every
Mhm.
Black woman that I've come across has pulled her weight and some and some and some.
And everybody else, pulled everybody else too. Yeah.
And so I'm like, we work too hard to not know our numbers. Like
Mhm.
you cannot live like that, right?
Yeah.
So because sometimes also you think that, oh my God, I might lose my job, and you think it's the end of the world. Then you look at the numbers, you're like, oh, actually, I'm good. And just that, even if it doesn't happen, it takes so much weight out of your shoulders.
Yeah.
You need to know your numbers.
Yeah, yeah. And this topic comes up a lot because I do like some masterclass, financial masterclasses with
Mhm.
Dr. Roche Brown, who's a financial psychologist, and I work with her to get my financial exit plan together so I can leave my toxic job. And we talk about avoidance a lot. And I've been very honest that I have had issues about avoiding money, right? Now I know what my avoidance is about, but
Mhm.
why do you think a lot of Black women, we're talking about Black women in particular. Why do you think a lot of Black women avoid looking at our money? Why do you think we do that?
It's not a fun topic.
It
How
doesn't
many
feel
people
good.
how many people get excited talking about money except like nerds like me? Like how many people you talk about money and they're like, oh yeah, listen, even in like when I started really getting into the fire movement type of thing, and I
Mhm,
would go to like meet and greet, how to reach fire. Most of the time, I'll find myself not only like the only Black woman, but like the only Black person there. And I'm like, where are my people? Like, we need to be here. Those people are sharing golden, and they like so open about it. They're sharing information,
mhm,
how to like structure your finances, how to
mhm,
stretch. Like, it's golden. And I'm like, where
mhm,
are we? Right?
mhm.
So we were not brought up in environments where money were talked about like openly and in a positive way. Even when it
Mhm.
was talked openly, most of the time it was coming from a very like scarcity
Yeah,
mindset.
yeah.
It was like, oh, we don't have enough. It's hard to get money. You have to work hard, and
Oh, we
you
don't talk
can't
about money because you don't want people asking you for money?
exactly. It's very
Mhm,
taboo. It's very, very taboo. And
mhm,
so and so I was lucky that, eventually I got out of the, like I was part of communities where they were talking more open about money.
Mhm,
And just like, wow, like we need to change that. The
mhm,
reality is like where your energy grows, that, where your focus goes, that's where, things are gonna happen. So if
mhm.
you don't talk about money, you avoid it, chances are your money is not gonna do you good, right? Because you're not really treating the money with like love. And so
Right.
it's very natural that we actually avoid talking about money because again, we're not really in most of us like, in our upbringing was not really like let's talk about money and let's talk about strategy. How can you do this and how can you position yourself? A lot of things
Mhm,
that I've learned in my adulthood, I'm like, damn it, if my parents had taken just like 5 minutes to explain me, I wouldn't have to go through all of this and lose like so much money. But then at the
mhm.
same time, I'm taking it also as a lesson, like a learning that I'm going with. And so I feel like I feel it's changing now because more and more people are realizing the fact that right now a lot of us working don't have like pension the way it was before. People are,
Mhm,
and also that life has become so expensive. Buying a house
mhm,
is expensive, education is expensive, raising
mhm,
children is expensive.
mhm,
So they're
mhm.
like, okay, I need really to start looking at this thing because I can't let life do me like that, right? So
Right.
we have goals and have things like that. So I think it's changing, but for me, it's not changing quick enough. That's just that's just that. But with the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, the work that so many other Black women are doing, I think we're gonna get the momentum at one point. And
Mhm.
but it's not, it's gonna happen, but maybe not as fast as actually we want it. So the avoidance, like personality when it comes to money, to me, like I've I've realized, I've come to realize it's very normal for Black women to have that personality. However, one thing that is great with Black women is like when you show a Black woman how she can improve her life, and you can like she buys into it, like she's unstoppable after.
Yeah. She's on a roll. She's on a
Unstoppable.
roll. Yeah, she's on a roll, and then she's gonna show other people too, and
Yeah,
that's what
that
I
is
really
the thing. Yeah.
appreciate about the summit, and Marissa and I were very intentional about thinking, like, what topics we wanted to cover at the summit, who we wanted to speak at the summit, because we want Black women to have more opportunities for freedom and liberation,
Yeah.
right? And we talk about how finances is so key with that, right? And if we don't know our numbers, then we're often stuck in situations. We're stuck in toxic jobs, or if something happens to our job, then we just feel stuck. So again, we're so thankful that you are one of our speakers at the summit so that we have a better understanding of our finances. I think a
Mhm.
lot of us were brought up and we're not really taught about
Mhm.
finances. And it's
Mhm.
never too late, right? It's never too late for us to learn about finances, right?
Exactly. I don't think it's too late. Actually, so I get that, so usually when I'm interviewed like this, people will be like, oh, I'm in my 50s. I feel like I'm too late to get started. And I'm like, well, if you wait for tomorrow, well, you're gonna be more late. So that's just that. And I, I also think that sometimes people use that argument to remove themselves, to say, oh, it's too late. So why, I don't need to care about this because
Mm,
I've done this in my 20s, so that's fine. Listen, we have seen
mm,
people in their 90s running marathons. People have had children in their 50s. People have, like, we have seen so many
mhm,
things now in this life that I feel like
mhm.
sky is not even the limit at this point. And so
Yeah.
just say that because you are in your 60s, it's too late to invest. You could live until in your 90s. That's 30 years. 30
Mm,
years. If you put your money in the market for 30 years, do you realize, how much money you can make from it? And then again, it depends. You can be like, well, what does that good do to me when in my 90s and I have millions? Well, that can help you being like in a very fancy retirement house where people are literally giving you the caviar in the morning, like that, at
your
least
quality of life.
exactly you're gonna go out of this life feeling really, really good and being able to afford a lot of things, not being at the mercy of like
Mhm,
maybe government subsidized facilities that where they're not.
mhm,
I'm not saying that that's okay, but maybe
mhm,
you won't get the like the luxury treatment that you would have had
mhm.
choose, the facility yourself. So, I mean, for me, it's a matter of I really I really hope people will not ask that question, not only even in regard to the money or the investment, but in regard to anything in your life. Like if you
Mhm.
still living and you're healthy, you can do anything that you want. Like you
Yeah.
can literally do any, and science has helped so much that people are having kids in their 60s. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but really, if you feel like having a child in your 60s, I'm pretty sure somewhere some people can help you to make that happen. And
Uh-huh.
so don't check yourself out of the whole investing journey just because everybody's saying you need to start in your 20s. Well, yeah, it's great if you have started in your 20s, but if in
Mhm.
your 40s, 50s, 60s, it's still a great time to start investing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm wondering too, because I hear a lot of women, they'll say things like, oh, you would want me to leave this job and just, be homeless on the street. And I'm like, where did you hear that? I was talking about exit planning to make sure you have a plan. Because I've
Mhm.
never said to people, don't just think about money. Like, but that's the fear. That's the fear, right?
Yeah.
Or I will hear Black women say things like, well, it must be nice. I got to keep this job because I got bills to pay. And I'm like, I know you got bills. We all got bills to pay. But there's just like this connection between that job and money and survival,
Mhm.
right? So it's this connection with that job is the only place where I can make money
Yeah.
and I need to survive, right?
Mhm.
And so what I hope for us is that we're able to see, yes, we need money to survive. We are clear about that, right? But maybe not at that job if it's
Yeah.
harming you, right?
Mhm.
There's other ways to make money. Why do you think, as Black women, that
Mhm.
we have kind of fused the two together?
And so,
Money and that particular job is the only place for you to get money.
mhm. Well, that particular job also does a good job at making you think that they're the only
Uh-huh.
one that can actually
That
provide
is
the
true. That
money.
is true. That is true.
And so, and if
That
you're
is true.
like, if you're surrounded by people who think the same because your colleagues become your friends that you're hanging out with on the weekends, well, everybody's thinking the same thing.
That is true.
And so you need to be able to, find a way to disconnect yourself, not only from the job, but also even from the colleagues, and have people who are like not even in your world, your sphere, usually like who will also help you to see things a different way. And
Mhm.
so to me, I feel like we need to, this is our life. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we only get the one life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we really need to also do a better job at what exactly do I want? And
Mm.
is this job still serving me? And
Mm.
not think that the job becomes a standard, like just like of our life. Because the day that they feel like they want to reduce by half of the head, the workforce,
Mhm.
and you happen to be on that side of the cut, they will cut you
Immediately,
like
without any hesitation.
so fast. They will. And
Yeah.
so there is one quote that I really like, and I have it on my YouTube channel from Naval Ravikant. Is like, money doesn't buy happiness; it buys freedom.
Mm.
I've gotten some people, sometimes telling me, "Oh, well, you always talk about money. It's not the only thing in the world and everything." I'm like, it's not the only thing, but it's a very important thing. It's very, to see how having my finances in a good condition has helped me navigate my life and things that I was able to do.
Mhm.
Nobody can tell me that money is not that important. You're making
Mhm.
it. I'm not making it a big deal.
Mhm.
I like talking about it. I like learning about it. But I
Mhm.
have other aspects of my life that I really enjoyed, and it's not just the money part. And
Mhm.
so for me, I feel like as Black women, we need to understand that essentially, yes, this job is giving us the money,
Mhm.
but another job can be we can do it by ourselves. But the reality is like until we make that decision to not be, like so stuck or like feeling that this is the only possibility that can actually bring me money or like my lifestyle and the standard of living that I have,
Mhm.
they win. They are winning. And
Mm.
so even the way that
Lost control.
yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
I'm going to give you an example. So at my current job,
Mhm.
At one point, there was a vacant spot, and it's a very some people will love it, whatever that person was doing. Some people will not, but they were having hard time staffing that particular position, but it couldn't stay open for too long,
Mhm.
and so they ended up is literally telling one person, well, listen, you're going to be the one doing this job, and she's a good friend of mine at work, and she was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh. She's like, no. I'm like, what did you tell them? She's like, well, I said I don't want to do it.
Oh,
I was like, she's not a black woman. I was like, okay. And so I was waiting to see what's gonna happen. Listen, they found someone else. And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, this woman, what gave you the gut to say, like flat, I'm not doing this position? And we like I said, we're a good friend, and we're open about talking about money, our salary, whatever,
mhm.
all of those things. And she's in her mid 30s, actually no, early 30s. She has invested in real estate investment. Like I think she's like network millionaire. She has a partner who's making a bunch of money. So she must have thought about this and be like, well, no, I don't want to do it. And even if you fire me, I'm good. Like, how
Okay.
many people do you know, Dr. Kimani, that, some of our boss are like, some will be like, okay, well, that's the job that you're doing from now on. You're like, well, I don't really like it, but I got to pay bills.
I don't have any choice. I don't
Yeah.
have choice.
She
Yeah.
said, she was like, no, I don't want to do it. She's like, they can't force me to do it. I'm
Okay.
not doing it. And yeah, so she's not doing it. They found someone else.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I was talking that same day with another person, this time a black woman,
Mhm.
who was complaining because, it's the time that we're doing our performance assessment, and she was having a
Mhm.
bit of trouble with her boss, and her boss didn't want
Mhm.
to, I guess, rate her negatively and said, I'll put a nil, like nil in your assessment.
A what?
Like nil, like not applicable, NILL, nil.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm like, that's not good to have in your performance assessment nil. Like, what does that mean? And
Hmm.
she's like, well, that's what I told him, that, he should do something. And I'm like, so what are you gonna do? She's like, oh, I guess I don't have a choice. I will accept it.
Oh.
I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, you have a choice. You don't have to sign an assessment where someone's gonna put nil in your assessment. If you think that you have provided, you have done the work over the year,
Mhm.
like you work for
Mhm.
365 days here, and someone's just gonna put nil in your assessment. And then I was just like comparing that to my colleague who literally said no to a position that she would never let anyone put a nil in her assessment. She's like, I'm not signing it. I'm not
Right.
signing it. And so I'm like, we need to put ourselves in a position that we're pushing back against things like that. If you decide to stay at the job, people need to know that you're not the one who's gonna take shit from that.
And
Because I
and
think,
be okay with the possible consequences if they come back at you, right? So
mhm,
if your friend was like, I'm not okay with that being in my file,
yeah,
and they said, well, if they came back in a negative way, and she said, okay, well, I'm taking my coins and I'm leaving, or I'm going somewhere else. But if she had financial reserves,
yeah,
then she would feel more confident
exactly.
in
Oh yeah,
saying that. But if you
100%.
don't have the financial reserves, you're
You're at the
terrified.
mercy. You are
Yeah.
really at their mercy. And
Yeah.
it's not just the job, it's you're at the mercy of
Mhm.
anything or anyone. And
Mhm.
that's one thing that I want to put out there. I know your summit is the Job Liberation Summit, but I
Mhm.
want you also to keep in mind that this is really a summit about getting you ready to face any situation in your life. Right. So even if you're at your job, you're having a great time at job, and you're like, yeah, Job Liberation Summit, it's not like I'm looking forward to. Come and learn about techniques, learn from some experts on different aspects so you be ready. Like there is nothing wrong to be ready. Like it's better to be
That
ready
part.
with that not happening than you not be ready. Because why people are mourning when they lose their job? Because they're not ready. That's But if
Exactly.
you have everything already in place, then you don't care about losing your job. Yes, it's an annoyance and all of that, but at
Mhm.
least it's not the end of the world. It's not like your kids are gonna start eating like crumbs just because
Right.
you lost your job the week before. Like it just doesn't make sense. So I really want to put it out there because I know people will see the title of the summit and be
Mhm.
like, yeah, job liberation. Well, no, that's fine. I'm good. I love my job and my colleagues and
Mhm.
all of those things. Still come to the summit. That
Mhm.
honestly, for the cost that you guys have put there, which I honestly think is not enough. And I'm not saying that I'm a speaker. I'm
I
not saying,
agree. I
but,
agree.
but honestly, like the wealth of knowledge that people are going to be getting by coming to this summit is priceless. And so, and the replay, like if you can do the 3 days and like, being plugged in and listen to all sessions, that's totally fine. But you can do the replays,
Yeah.
go and get the information and be ready, at
Yeah.
least know how you can actually, plan. So then if something like that happened, whether it is the job, whether it is the partner who's not, working for you anymore, or like
Mhm.
even like, you're like in a let's say in a city that you don't like and you want to move somewhere else. Like there's so many things that you
The
can use.
basic skills
Right.
of exit planning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. I want to go back and highlight what you just said. So the part about exit planning is important for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think somebody might say, "Oh, I love this job. It's wonderful. Da, da, da. I don't want to think about leaving." I think that what we've seen over this past year,
Yeah.
no job is stable,
Oh,
none.
yeah.
And so even if you love it, that doesn't mean the job is going to be stable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about planning, it doesn't mean that now you have to leave the job.
Yeah.
It just means that you have a plan in case something goes awry. That's
Exactly.
all it means.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think some of us fall into this magical thinking or like, oh, I don't want to jinx myself. If I exit plan or something, then that's going to jinx myself that something bad's going to happen. That is not true. That's illogical. It's
Yeah.
illogical. So we need to always have some plans together and we see what's happening in the world. I cannot stress enough how important it is for us to have our plans together. So
Yeah.
speaking of planning, Samira, why do you think that wealth building is a part of an exit plan for any Black woman? Any Black woman.
Because I don't want any Black woman to grow old and having to eat bread and drink water. I want Black women to grow old, beautiful, and like I say, live their best life,
Mm-hmm.
drinking champagne if they want to, eating caviar and doing all that. And so I'm really big. So my thing that I'm really big on is investing and really wealth building. And so
Okay.
the reason why, at one point I was listening to a podcast and the guy in there was saying how he's a Black guy.
Mhm.
He was traveling and then he was staying in a hotel, and then he came back a bit earlier. Like he left in the morning and he came back a bit earlier, and so the clean lady was like in his room about to
Mhm.
eat, and he was like, as I was about to get into the room, I just hear someone say, "Oh God, please give me the strength to finish my day today."
Mm.
And he's like, then I get into the room and I see this old Black woman, probably in her 60s, early 70s, and she was the one cleaning the room.
Mm.
And he was like, "This is my grandma right here."
Mm.
And he told the lady, "Here is, $50. I don't need you to clean my room. Just give me new towels and new sheets, and I don't need you to do my bed. I don't need my
Mhm.
grand I don't have my grandma do my bed, I'll do it."
Mhm.
And that really stayed with me.
Mm.
And for me, and that's the other thing, I feel like us Black women, when it comes to the short term, having money, we like to scroll money. Like, we're gonna put a bit of savings here and a bit of saving there and all that because it's important in case of emergency and everything. But a
Mhm.
lot of us, and also that also come with the upbringing and we're not just exposed to the financial education that much. We don't think about our golden years, the
Mm.
years where the body is not going to cooperate the same way. Maybe the mind is not going to cooperate the same way. And you really don't want to be at the mercy of anyone in those golden years. And so
True.
for me, I'm like, how do we make sure to position ourselves so then when we get in our 50s, 60s, and beyond that, we are really enjoying the life. And if we happen to do anything, volunteering or do a bit of consulting, that's really because we want to do it and not because we have to. Life is already not kind to us in our 20s and 30s. You think that life is going to be kind to us when you're like in our 60s and 70s? Like, we need to wake up. And so, yes, it's good to be like thinking about your short term, but like, who's gonna work for your future you? Your future 60, 70 years. You need to work for that person. So, the only way you can do it, like you can do it in many ways, but like for me, the way that you can do it that's going to be not so much of a work for you is to invest, really to invest in the market and having, your proper insurance in place, getting out of consumer debt and all that. But the thing is, like, a lot of us are not doing it. We are not doing it because we're not taught of that. We're not in circles where
Mhm.
people are doing that. And we think about it a bit later. And even when we're thinking about it a bit later, we
Mhm.
find a way to be like, it's too late. I'm not going to bother.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
again, it's
We
not.
count ourselves out. And it's
Yes.
so sad because society does this weird thing where
Mhm.
they count us out in certain situations, but then they depend on us and exploit us at the same time. And they want
And
us to take care of them.
yeah, and they will do it as long as we don't tell them no.
Right.
And the way to tell them no is to have that cushion.
Yeah.
And to me, as I was seeing my investment grow and I reached Coast Fi a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
Dr. K, I can't tell you, like, honestly, the wave of freedom that I felt, I'm like, listen, I have a fully funded retirement. Like, if I don't put even a $1 in my investment until I start collecting, taking money from my investment from age 55 and onward,
Mhm.
I'm fine. And so then you realize you're like, oh my God, I don't need to be saving anymore, which was perfect timing for me because at the time my kids were like very young. So,
Mhm.
take the money and, putting more in the kids and everything. But also it really opened the world to me. Now I'm considering moving abroad because I don't need to be somewhere where life is so expensive anymore. I can go live, somewhere where life is not so expensive, where I can get some help with the kids. And yes, I
Mhm.
still need to make money for our life and our living expenses over there, but I don't need to make as much as I'm needed to make when I had to contribute to the investing. So you
Ah.
may say it's late to invest, but if you don't start today, you're gonna have to contribute more in 1 year and way more in 2 years. And so the earlier you start, when you realize that okay, I need to invest, the better
Mhm.
it is because then you're gonna reach your goal faster and maybe free up some money for you to actually do whatever you want if you feel like I don't need to invest anymore. And
Yeah.
so I feel like people sometimes forget about it. They feel like, oh, I'm going to be investing until I reach a retirement age. Maybe not. It all depends on what exactly you want to do. Because again, we have been also brainwashed to thinking that we have to work 40 years until we reach the 60s and the 70s, then we retire. Well, we
Mhm.
retire at 70 to do what? Like a lot of us
Mhm.
at 70, like, listen, our body has gone through so much, our mind has gone through so much. When do we get to enjoy our life? I want Black women to enjoy their lives more. And
Yeah.
so, like in job settings, where really they're like toxicity, whether it is like the work, I mean, the people, usually it's like from the people,
Mhm.
you need to find something, a way to actually, um, like, the way you're going to be interacting with people, they'll feel like this one, you don't want to mess up with her, right? And so that's just that. And even people when they don't know that and they try and you put them back on, back to the place, they'll be like, oh, I guess I can't try that with her. And the thing that's
Mhm.
gonna give you the courage to do that is having your money, like in the good spot. And so I
Right.
tell people all the time, I'm like, the way we move in like professional settings, whether you want it or no, is going to change from you having your money well, situated, from you not having your money well situated. People will
Mhm.
feel that from you if you absolutely need this job for your living expenses. And guess what? They're gonna use it against you.
Absolutely. It's a form of control, like we talked about, right? And I just think about, and I just got just excited as you were talking because I was thinking about Adelia and Halisi, who are also part of the summit, talk about the importance of having FU money.
No,
So
yeah.
it's like, okay, so if you gonna trip or whatever, I got FU money, so I'm just on my way. So there's so many speakers at the summit, Black women, who are talking about finances because it is so crucial. So, Samira, talk a little bit about, because you said wealth is resistance. Talk
Yes.
a little bit more about that.
So honestly, so I know the book, you know the book,
Rest is resistance.
exactly, and so I leverage that and I put wealth is resistance because that's the way that actually I saw it in my life. It's like I'm not going to let you dictate what I should do in my life
Mhm.
because I'm building wealth. And so I'm resisting against this.
Mhm.
And like I said, the way we need to be able to push back. One of the way also that I didn't mention is like when I was pregnant with my twins.
Mhm.
So the system here in Canada, we pay the health, like our health benefit through our taxes. So
Okay.
usually, and if you have an employer, they cover everything and whatnot. But the system itself, honestly, is not really kind to, from my experience, to Black
Mm.
women, especially.
Mm.
I mean, we don't. I think it's not as dire as it is the case in the U.S. To be quite honest
Mhm.
with you. But
Mhm.
when I was pregnant with my oldest, I saw how it went, and so when I got pregnant with my twins, I'm like, I actually don't want to go through this again here,
Mhm.
where I'm talking to you about my body and things that I'm feeling, and you're trying to tell me that that's not the way I'm feeling, that I should feel different way because you are the expert and that you know more than me and all of that.
Mhm.
And so I said, you know what? I'm on mat leave for 1 year. These kids, I'm gonna go to Mexico, live there, and have them there.
Wow.
And listen, I had to pay out of pockets for everything. So I left a situation where I knew everything would be free, free. I wouldn't have to pay anything for the whole birth and everything to going overseas, giving birth to the twins there, and having to pay for my pocket. I could have done that,
Mm.
you know,
That's the financial freedom.
exactly. And that was my way to resist against a system that I felt like that was not working for me. And so I'm going to
Mm.
find somewhere else that's going to work for me.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
wealth is resistance concept that I had for the Wealthy Black Women Summit last year. To me, I feel like, it was just the theme last year, but I honestly feel that this is like an evergreen theme that I hope that
Mhm.
Black women will embrace to be like, when you think about building wealth, it's
Mhm.
you establishing really the basis of you resisting to any situation
Mhm.
really that you may find yourself in that is not serving you.
Mhm. Absolutely. 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 So, Samira, can you talk a little bit about, as one of the panelists at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, what is it that you're going to be talking about as a panelist there?
Yeah, so as a panelist, I think for the panel, and because I'm doing it with my dear friend Sandra, and I know Alice is on the same panel as well. And the three of us, we have different like we have different backgrounds, right? So, but I think for me, for the panel, one thing that I want to focus on is really the whole aspect of having at least like a solid emergency fund. And
Mm.
so that's one thing that a lot of time people don't really consider. And I'm not going to lie. Before the kids, I didn't pay that much attention to emergency fund because I was on my own and I was like, on top of my finance. I'm like, I can control anything that could happen. But with the kids, I became more serious about emergency fund, and I saw also the reason of that. And that's one thing also that I feel like sometimes we forget about is
Mm.
like, okay, well, it's good also to have some money that is really dedicated to emergency, like a situation like a job loss, right? So,
Mhm. Mhm.
so it's really that money saved for that in particular.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the other aspect is really for me retirement planning, right? So again, uh, I think, like I say, I started thinking about retirement, like, in my early 30s. I'm like, first of all, I don't want to retire at that age. So I want to retire, like, at the standard age or whatnot, late 60s or early 70s. I want to retire much earlier than that. And I want my life to be this and that. And I feel like a lot of us, we don't think about it. It's
Mhm.
never, never, never too late to think about retirement planning. Of course, we're not gonna get into the details of how to do the retirement planning. I'm gonna get into that more when I do the workshop. But I
Mhm.
really wanted to make sure that people understand the value of thinking about the retirement planning. Honestly, even for a young person who's starting their 20s or whatnot, to already think about retirement planning because it's that is going to actually help you to become very knowledgeable about money and what you need to do so then you get to retire when you want to retire. And so that gives really that confidence that honestly I feel like a lot of people don't have.
Mhm.
And so yes, those kind of like what I'm thinking. And of course, I'm looking forward, to bouncing ideas off of each other in the panel with the other two panelists. But yeah,
Mhm.
in a
Okay.
nutshell, yeah.
Awesome. And then what about for your bonus session? What do you plan to focus on? Just a high level overview. We don't want to give
Yeah,
all the goodies away.
exactly.
What do you plan to talk about during your bonus session at the summit?
So the bonus session is going to be work. It's going to be work. We're going to be working because one thing that I really want to make sure of is that people come and leave the bonus session with a plan. This is the plan that I'm going to be actually implementing to better my finances. I feel like a lot of times, sometimes, we attend, like session or whatnot, but then we have like the high level. And so I'm going to be asking people to come with their numbers because again, we talked about it earlier.
Mhm.
I can give you all the strategies and the know-how, all of those things. But if you don't sit and look at your numbers, it's all for nothing, right? So I feel like, that's going to be forcing even some people to not be so avoidant of their numbers anymore. And so I actually encourage you, if you are someone that, you're finding really hard to look at your numbers, we're going to doing it in community, right? It's going to be a little circle where we get together. Everybody's bringing their numbers. You don't have to share it if you don't want, but you're going to have it on your worksheet. And then we're going to go through it. You're going to think about it. You're going to ask questions. It's going to be a very safe space, just Black women talking about money. And when you leave that session, I want people to feel empowered to actually take that plan and implement that.
I
And
love
so
that.
that's really, in a nutshell, what the workshop is going to be about.
Yes, I love that. So not only at the summit will you leave with an exit plan, a pivot plan, but again, this financial plan.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So, Samira, can you talk about the work that you do and
Mhm.
about your summit? Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So this year will be the fourth year, and very excited about it. I do it in during the month of November, which is the financial literacy month for us here in Canada. And so I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about this year, but last year, like you say, the theme was wealth is resistance. And my summit essentially is one day. And right now, I'm, the only one running the summit. And so it's one day, and it's a Saturday, but
Mhm,
it's a full day, right? So we usually start at 7 a.m. and
mhm,
all the way to 7 p.m. We have maybe 1 or 2 hours break during the day. And the reason why I actually decided to do this summit was, again, to make money less taboo for Black women, and
mhm,
also being able to talk about um, anything that is related to money, but not just, like with that mindset of how money is complicated and how money is hard and how money for me, it's so, like I said, for me, it's like, it's freedom, is honestly that aspect of having options, being
mhm,
able to do things, in a different ways. And
mhm,
so and also the reality is, like, I've read it somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but like the Black community, in its whole, we're not doing a good job at like building wealth. And it's say that by 2053, our wealth is supposed to go to zero. And to
Oh,
me, that's frightening. Like 2053 is like in whatever, like
that's
20,
horrible.
these a little bit over 20 years from now.
Oh,
And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to live to see that, especially that a lot of money go through our hands. We get a lot of money going through our hands, trillions and trillions of dollars that are going through our hands. So it's just a matter of learning how to manage that money better for
mhm,
ourselves and
mhm,
also for our children and our
mhm,
children's, in
mhm,
a way that essentially we're not only building the wealth for us, but also creating that generational wealth. So then, essentially, we don't have to be, to start all of, from scratch at each generation. Like, it's not done like that when you look at other community. People put it
absolutely
in a
not.
way that, they build it and then their kids come and build even further. But I feel like for us Black people, because we have such a challenge, and don't forget, Dr. K, and maybe what I'm gonna say might be very contentious here, but there was a time, unfortunately, back in the days when slavery was there, we were the money. We were
Oh,
the money.
absolutely.
Exactly. We were
Absolutely.
the means of exchange. And
Mhm,
I can understand some people being challenged, right? It's just like,
mhm,
oh. I used to be I want to buy this. Okay, well, I'm gonna give you this number of people, and I'm gonna get this from you. And
Mhm,
so there's a lot of trauma also, still
mhm,
being there in our community when it comes to the way we manage money.
mhm,
And my suggestion, of course, make sure to be in a community of people who are talking positively about money, but also
mhm.
make sure to get the therapy that you need, depending on what is your relationship with money. And that's another thing that that's a whole another session in itself. But it's just like, how do you define your relationship with money, right?
Yeah,
So
'cause we all have a mini story.
yeah, exactly. So
Mhm,
that's also gonna guide how you're going to be managing the money. Like I know
mhm.
some people, they're not comfortable when they have more than, let's say, $500 in their account. They feel like that money should be somewhere. They don't need to have it. They don't deserve it. So they'll be like, oh, someone will be asking them for money. They'll give it away. They'll give it away.
Ooh,
And they don't really feel like, for them, it's just like, well, I don't really deserve to have that much. Like when I have like 1,000, it's weird to me to have $1,000 in my bank account. And I'm like, I don't understand that. So get the
wow.
help also that you need so you can improve your relationship with money, because that
Mhm.
is also going to determine how, successful you're going to be in building the wealth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's deep. That is deep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, Samira, you talked about what you're going to talk about on the panel during the summit, and you also talked about what you're going to talk about in the bonus session. So, I just want to be clear with everybody that as part of the panel, that's part of your regular ticket, right?
Mhm.
But if you want one of the bonus sessions, that Samira is part of one of the bonus sessions. So, there's three bonus sessions that all deal with finances, all finances, okay? So Samira's one, Dr. Roche Brown, who's a financial psychologist, is another one, and Sandra from Lack the Legacy is another one, okay? So it's three bonus sessions specifically dealing with finances. If you want that ticket tier, then that's the premium pass, okay? So the standard pass, you come in, you get your replays for 1 week only, 1 week, okay? Now, keep in mind, it's 28 speakers, okay? So just think, am I going to be able to watch 28 speakers? So if you can't come to the whole summit, or you got to go back and forth and you can take notes, just think about, are you going to be able to see 28 speakers and go back and take notes? The premium pass, you will get all the live speakers, the replay for 1 year,
Oh,
1 year, not 1 week, 1 year, and then you will be able to see Samira and the other two Black women talking about finances for the bonus pass. And then the highest tier is the accountability circle, which is we're launching it the first year. And you'll not only get the live, the replays for 1 year, the three bonus sessions, but you'll also get 6 coaching sessions with Marissa Price and I over the course of the year, which we'll be teaching you about your exit planning, your pivot plan, creating multiple streams of income. So if you need that additional accountability and that additional support with other Black women via Zoom, so that would be 6 sessions over the course of the year. So all that information is on the link for the summit. So Samira, what would you say to a Black woman who's watching this right now? She's like, oh, Samira is really interesting. I love what she's saying. And this sounds, but you know what? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about coming to the summit. What would you say to her?
well, I'll say first of all, thank you for for being interested in what I'm actually saying, and also, I guess to me, like I say earlier, is that it's better to be ready than not. We all have, like, for those of us who have a car, we get car insurance. I know it's mandatory most of the time. But we also get it because if there was a situation, well, we want to want to make sure that we're not gonna be the one coming with the $1 million or 2 million of like, something to pay that the insurance company will take it. It's same thing for our house. We usually get like house insurance. It's
Mhm,
same thing for our health. Chances are you're gonna have like a medical health insurance in place. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because to be ready, to
mhm,
prepare in case something happens. And
mhm,
so the Job Liberation Summit is that a lot of us are still in corporate settings that are not really, that were not created for us, for our well-being. A lot of us are doing a lot of masking and trying to fit into environment and spaces that were not created for us. Some of us are lucky, to be in spaces where we feel valued and acknowledged. But again, in my short 20 years in corporate space, sometimes you finish a day and you're like, wow, this was a tough day. And for a lot of people, it's literally every day of their week when they go to work. And
Yeah.
so my question to you is, are you going to wait until someone decide of your future,
Mhm.
or are you going to be ready so then if and when that happens, you don't really feel it. You don't feel it's almost like, honestly, sometimes a blessing. You're like, well, thank you, and
Mhm.
good to go. And so this is not, I honestly feel like this summit is not like for even like just people who feel like I want to leave, the job setting, but it's if currently you're like working in a corporate setting, you need to be at this summit. You need to be ready. And so, because Marissa, and you have done such a great job, uh, because I was going through like the list of speakers, and myself, I know I'm a panelist and everything. I was like so amazed with the actually the lineup, because there are a lot of Black women there that I've never heard of, and reading their background and like how you guys were able to even secure them for these summits. I don't even know how much you're paying them, because I mean, big ticket, uh
Everybody's getting paid the same thing.
right, expert coming, and for how much you gonna pay? Like, listen, we like, just like going out to a restaurant can easily cost you way more than that for two people. But like the knowledge, like even the exposure that you're gonna have to these women that are going to be sharing like their expertise,
Mhm.
to me it's just like, it's priceless. I said it earlier, like it is priceless. And so if you're on the fence, this is the way that I usually do for anything that actually I'm on the fence with. I usually try. I'm gonna try it and then decide if I want to do it again, right?
Mhm.
Of course, it doesn't have to nothing life-threatening or anything like that. But
Mhm.
the reality is like we tend to be to wanting to be in our comfort zone, and sometimes also be like bury our head in the sand and be like, yeah, no, it's okay. Again, the whole avoidant personality, because sometimes a lot of us, we see things that are not okay in our work on our workplace, and we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to make it a big
Mhm.
deal. Was it me? Was it the person? Like, why do we even have to be asking that kind of question? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Other people don't go through all of that when they're
Mhm.
like at work. They come, they work, and they leave. Like, we're always the one second guessing ourselves. Did I say the right thing? Was I too much? And all of those things.
Mhm.
It's it like draining. It's draining.
Mhm.
And so my suggestion is like, if you're on the fence, like this is not. It's not like we're not asking you for $1,000 here.
Mhm.
Come and then try it out. But my guess is, first of all, you're gonna be getting way more than whatever you pay. Even if you go for the top tier, package here, you are going to be getting way more that you're going to be actually putting into it. However, don't forget, you're gonna have to do the work. Like nobody is gonna do it for you. Like I'm ready to do my bonus session. All of the speakers are gonna come ready to share their knowledge and expertise, and you're going
Mhm.
to be on the receiving end. But the most important is, what are you going to be doing with the information that's going to be given to you? Even all the accountability session you're gonna have with Dr. K and Marisa, they're going
Mhm.
to be doing the utmost best and giving you everything that they have. But then
Mhm.
again, if you're gonna get that information and be like, yeah, that was nice, but you don't action it, you don't do anything about it, well, that has nothing to do with like, the experts from the summit, or like Marissa or Dr. Key. So that's one thing that I really want to put out there, because I even see sometimes from my summit where people are like really excited, they come and they do, but then after you check with people and they haven't done anything with the information. And as I'm just like, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Again, let us not count ourselves out.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
you've made a step forward, just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Exactly. Yeah. But I do believe that this idea of the accountability circle is brilliant, because I feel like, once also the summit is over, people are sometimes isolated, right? It's a virtual summit. So you might be by yourself, attending all of these sessions. And then after the summit, well, you're all by yourself, right? So
Mhm.
having that clarity circle that you've created, I feel like, it's a good way also for people to just like still continuing, with the momentum, and making sure that you actually implement something, you change something, and really that you can see that you actually got value from it. Listen, I've already said it. You guys are charging not so much for this summit. I personally don't think that the price will be that much of a hindrance for someone who's really seeing the value for this. And that's the other thing also, is that you need to invest in your future. This information that's going to be shared is investing in your future. We have all paid tens of thousands of dollars for education at university that we're not even using today. And so we can pay a few $100s for this.
Right. I co-sign, and I didn't even pay you for that, but I co-sign with everything you just said. Completely. Yes. So before I read the community chat, I do want to show again the trailer for the summit. If you have
I love that trailer. Oh my God, I love
it. It is beautiful, and it was done by the one and only Glamazzini. She did a phenomenal
jobs are playing in our faces, aren't they? And now with this new administration,
toxic jobs don't just ignore your brilliance, they make you question whether it was ever really real.
How does stress show up for you physically? Brain fog, headache, feeling on edge.
Thinking about who you were before the workplace, maybe you were bold, soft, curious, creative.
Leaving a toxic job is not just about emotion. You need to be strategic about it.
You get to tell your own story. You get to start all over if you want to. Toddlers don't know limitations. Allow your inner child to play and create the world that this world told you was unimportant.
to shift the way in which you think about how money is earned and moving from scarcity to abundance mindset.
I make money easily and effortlessly.
So again, we're open and signs are revealed to us. We need to pay attention to that and be courageous enough to follow up with that.
Make sure you read your company policy.
Where can we get $1,500 a month? If it's bringing in over $1,500 a month, then we are financially free.
My freedom is in the desire, and my freedom is in the action. If you are waiting for someone to give you something that they benefit from keeping from you, is not going to happen.
Can you view yourself as accomplished without a job that says you're accomplished?
But if you are talking about liberating yourself, you're going to have to be number one. You're going to have to be not selfish, but self-full. You're going to have to get familiar with the idea that you will no longer tolerate toxicity in any shape or any form in your life.
Looks like the summit is about jobs and work and money, but this summit is about your dreams. This summit is about your life, a life beyond your wildest dreams.
The 2026 third annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women happening online May 1st through the 3rd. Registration is open.
And Black women, we do not panic, we pivot.
Oh, I love being a Black woman. If I got to come through this experience again, please, Lord above, make me a Black woman. I don't want to be anything but.
I love it. I love it. Again, Glamazzini, you did your thing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Brilliant. So everybody, if you haven't already registered, register for the summit and tell other Black women about it. I'm going to read the community chat and we're going to start winding down. So I see people in the chat. Hey, Marissa. And then I see a comment. Hello. So excited that I've registered for the summit, for the conference. Good. We can't wait to see you there. Even though, remember, we can't see you actually because you won't be on camera. Your name won't be listed, right? But glad that your presence will be there. Sometimes scarcity mindset and fear tells us we might end up with less. Also, many of us are the first generation in corporate America and don't have family members who can relate to the obstacles we face. Agreed. You have any comments about that, Samira?
No, that's totally true. Like, I'm going to take myself as an example. Like I said, I was an immigrant here in Canada, and my parents, my dad was a university professor in my country, and my mom had her own business. So coming here and having to start working in corporate setting, I never really had anyone in my family being in that situation, let alone doing that in a foreign country at the time. And so I had to learn a lot, and I've made so many mistakes and a lot of things. But I totally, and that's the thing. That's because everything that I was going through, my mom didn't have to go through that. My dad didn't have to go through that. Nobody really that I know in my family had to go through that. And I was literally like the first one to start that journey of working. Of course, now my siblings also are like in corporate setting, and I'm definitely like telling them, giving them advice and things like that, because I don't want them to also get into the same pitfalls. But I agree that it's really hard to relate a lot of time to people around us because they haven't been in that kind of situation really that much before.
So you're really paving your own way. But what I really found fascinating about your story, not only the change breaker thing, but how you took that job and you were collecting data.
Oh yeah.
The whole time. I thought that was fascinating. That was brilliant.
You know what? I feel like looking back, it was fueled by fear. I was really fearful. I was like, oh my God, if I can't find a way to have money, I mean, this income is not going to take me far. And I didn't know how long I was going to have, be at that income. And because, I wasn't expecting to have to go solo just to find a job, because after 4, 5, 6 months of looking, not just like I'm going to take any job and start anywhere. And so I felt like there was fear also, but I really used that fear to my advantage, because I was just like, I'm going to learn. Great. Maybe there was a call center in, let's say in a Windows company or mattress, I wouldn't have learned that much, but because it was in the bank setting, money, type of environment, and I was really like curious and very, observative of what was going on and all that, I was like, okay, I guess this is the key, right? So I'm like, even on my $27,000, I need to find a way to start saving and investing, because and making sure that I'm getting to the matching program for my employer, staying away from credit card debt. But then again, I had to do that by myself. Nobody really told me. I had to learn. And I think it takes work, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing also, that you're like, oh my God, I have work, I have other things. And on top of that, I have to go learn this, which is not that fancy, it's not that exciting compared to, going to maybe Beyonce concert or buying like Prada shoes or going on trip. It's not exciting. I totally agree. I mean, so there are some friends that I love. They're like my best friend from like 10 plus years, 20 years. They don't want to hear me talk about money. We don't talk about money. I just have my people that I talk money with, and I have my people that I talk about other things with, right? So, but yeah, I totally agree with that comment. But that makes it also challenging for us to be able to learn if we really have to do that work. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that was a divine experience, that you were at a bank call center, right? It was like you were at a bank call center, so you're collecting data, and then you were able to channel that fear. And I'm so glad you named the fear, because sometimes we think, I feel the fear. Fear is only a bad thing, and I should just, oh my God. But the fear sometimes can help motivate us in some ways.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were able to channel the fear to learn more, so you didn't end up staying in some type of job like that long term.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Last comment. Wealth building changes the way you move. Once I had several times my yearly income in investments, I became fearless, because a job or a bad boss can't hurt me. Ooh, I love that.
Honestly, Dr. K, that's the thing. Like, you build that wall and you're like, you can't touch me.
Literally. Literally, I thought about MC Hammer. Like, you can't touch this, right?
You can't touch me. And I mean, the way you move, the way you like portray yourself, the way you talk, like all of that changes. You're like, even people who know you, they're like, oh, something changed about this woman, and they can't really tell what. But and again, it's like knowing your number. And that's why I even say, even if you like I said, you don't have any issue with your job right now, still look at your number. Because even the fact that you're going to look at your numbers, might be a day you're like, I actually don't feel like going. I'm actually done, because I know that, financially I'm already good. I'm not going. right? So why does it have to be us fearing them firing us? They should be also a bit fearful of us leaving.
Walking away. Walking away. Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. So, Samira, as we're winding down, what last words do you want to share with this community?
So first of all, I want to thank you, Marissa, and you for doing this summit. It's a very catchy title because people are like job liberation, like what is this? But also you guys also I like it because where exactly people are talking about leaving jobs or like feeling free even after leaving a job. Like everybody wants to work somewhere, right? So I like this way of of doing it. I just want to again encourage any Black woman who's listening to this is that sometimes we don't know what we need until we need it, and let's not make this the case, because first of all, Marissa and you have done such an amazing job at promoting this summit, like everywhere, like on Instagram, everywhere. And I'm hoping that people don't second guess themselves, and be like, should I go, should I not go? Granted that our money today, there's so many things that are calling upon our money, but to me, I value great investments. Like, when I take my money, I'm like, I'm even, I want to, let's say I'm buying this thing or I'm doing this. I value really great investment. To me, this is not just like buying a ticket to attend a summit. It's an investment. It is an investment in your life. And you will only essentially get that, like I say, so many great Black women coming to share their expertise. You will only get that if you're actually part of the whole summit. Do come. Do also share, because that's the other thing. Don't keep it to yourself. Like, and I know us Black women, we're really good. When you find great deals, we're gonna tell all of our friends. They're gonna tell everybody, essentially. So also having someone coming with you could be also really helpful in you carrying on with what you learn after, because then you guys can team up. We both participate to this summit. We're going to learn from it. Now we come together, we develop a plan, each of us, and we keep each other accountable. So not only come, but also bring a friend with you.
I love that.
I honestly think, I don't think anyone would attend this summit and be like, I don't even know why I attend. Like, no chance. No chance.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. I co-sign with that too. Okay. Okay. So, Samira, thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so thankful for you to be our panelist and to be a bonus speaker. So, looking forward to hearing what wealth of information you're going to be sharing with us at the summit and at the bonus session. So, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. Also, you didn't tell people about your YouTube channel.
Yes. So please bear with me with my YouTube channel. Like I said, I have 3 young kids and a full-time job, so I haven't been posting much, but I've also been busy on my coaching side. I have to say the summit last year, the Wealthy Black Women Summit, was very successful in like bringing me a lot of coaching clients. So I've been also focusing on really helping my clients, in improving their investment and building wealth. But hopefully, like I say, I'm looking forward to taking a break from work and moving abroad, so I'll be able to dedicate my entire time to my business. But yeah, my YouTube channel will be probably the best place, I guess, to stay in touch with me. It's called actually Black Women Build Wealth. That's the YouTube channel, and then the summit is the Wealthy Black Women Summit.
Awesome. So all that information should be in the YouTube description section. Okay. So everyone, again, subscribe to Samira's YouTube channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's completely free. Okay. And share this video with at least 2 other Black women. Okay. I will see you all later. Take care, everyone. Oh, and I'll be back on tomorrow. Okay. So I'll be back on tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. Okay. So I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we're going to talk about resumes and what you could do about your resume. Because sometimes you get scared about if you lost a job or you're trying to pivot from a job and you don't know quite what to say. So we're going to have an expert here to talk about that. Okay. So join in tomorrow. Okay. And I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good evening.